You read that right. I let players build their own playfield. Basically, the entire level they play on. But to explain why I did that, we need to go back a bit. If you're new here, I'm making a pinball roguelike. You launch a ball, hit stuff, buy upgrades between rounds, the usual roguelike loop. The problem was, once the ball launched, there wasn't much left for the player to do. You'd use an item, maybe use the flipper occasionally, and then mostly just watch. And that's where the game started to lose me. Because the fun part of roguelikes is making decisions, choosing your build, adapting to problems. But in my game, once the ball was moving, the biggest decision was already over. So I was wondering, what if the player didn't just play the level? What if they build it? First thing I needed was just a space to test it in. Invisible walls, a ball, and a drag and drop. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. Turns out, I forgot about gravity. But the drag and drop is looking good. Once gravity was actually off, I figured I need some kind of visual guide. There should be a white line somewhere. Oh. With the aiming sorted, all that was left was making the ball actually feel good to play with. The bound and the aiming is okay for now. Now, the walls are still invisible, so I made a quick play field. Isn't this beautiful? With the basics working, I could finally move on to the reason I started this whole revamp in the first place. Letting players build their own playfield. There's a bumper selection now, you can use it here. Right now we can use all of them, even though there should only be one. After you found a good placement, you can just press confirm, and now you cannot move them anymore. Now the next one comes in, and you just repeat this. Before I touched the actual game, I did something I should have done a lot earlier. I finally learned how to use GitHub. 3 months into development, 2 of which I wasn't even working on the game. So the next step was cleaning the old system out and putting the prototype in. Easy, right? It wasn't. After fixing one problem, the next problem would come. Why is the ball not moving? At least the line is back. So the shooting works now. Maybe I should have put walls there. So for now, I brought back the old playfield as a temporary arena. And finally, the core loop was back. The ball could launch, bounce around, and behave like the old game. But there was still one problem. The game didn't know when the turn was over. Which is great if you're testing, not so great if you're trying to make a game. So I connected the ball back to the old round system. Now the game waits until the ball actually stops, before taking away a turn. The balancing definitely isn't finished yet. How long the ball should move, how many turns you get, and how much freedom the player should have are things I will have to tune later. But for now, the important part was making the system actually work together. It's time for the grid. And actually letting the player build playfield. Not movable, I guess. After fixing the placement, the biggest part finally worked. The player could actually build their own playfield. There was just one small problem. The bumpers were basically invisible. Now the ball could actually interact with the bumpers, but that wasn't still not enough because they didn't actually do anything still. You're not getting any points. But that was a problem for later. I wanted to add some variety. At the beginning of the game, we'll start with 5 bumpers. They are randomly selected where they're placed, and you cannot change them. And after fighting with the old system for a while, the 2 versions finally became one. It worked. But there are still some issues. The balancing is way off. It still has the balancing of the old system, where it was easy to get some points. But now with this system, it's very hard to get some. I just made it very easy. This will be a problem for someday, not now. Now that everything's finally working, I still need to make it look less ugly. But I didn't want the art to be purely cosmetic. Every shape and every color is meant to become a part of the gameplay. I wanted the bumpers to be more than just bumpers. Right now, they're just something you hit for points. But eventually, I want them to mean something, like each one having its own identity, its own upgrade path. So instead of one generic bumper, I need a few different ones, each with room to grow into something more later. But for now, the basics are enough. Before drawing anything else, I wanted to test if the randomization of the bumpers actually work. Random shape, random color every time. Right now, I opted out for 4 shapes and 4 different colors. Why is nothing spawning? At this point, I was convinced this script was broken. Lucky enough, it wasn't broken. It just really didn't want to pick yellow. Every single color that wasn't finished yet is invisible, and I only had one color finished. So, let's finish the rest of the colors. Last thing, you're supposed to be able to drag a bumper back into the selection if you change your mind. Well, that didn't happen. Now, I want to be honest, this is still very early. There are still a lot of limitations. One thing I keep going back and forth on is the grid itself. Right now, every slot is the same size, same shape, fine for a basic bumper. But I've got ideas for bumper types that probably won't fit a single square slot the way things are set up now. And I haven't figured out if that means redesigning the slots or building a separate system entirely for those. And balancing. Balancing is basically non-existent right now. Points and tickets are not remotely in line with each other. And ball speed, bounce, dampening, these are all placeholder numbers. So the feel is not right now. So remember earlier when I said I wanted these bumpers to actually mean something, not just be points? This is what I meant. I'm calling them utility bumpers. Stuff that does something instead of just sitting there. A trampoline bumper. More bounce, changes how the ball moves through the field instead of just where it stops. A permanently rotating bumper. Same idea, unpredictable on purpose. And this is the one that's actually the reason I brought up that slot problem earlier. The speed boost lane. Which is exactly why the grid thing is still unresolved. A lane isn't a single square, it's got a direction. It might not even want to be a slot at all. If anyone got thoughts on how that should actually work, genuinely curious, drop it in the comments. Now, on top of the bumpers themselves, I've also been thinking about the ball having its own abilities. The idea right now is every bounce charges up an ability. Once it's charged, you can trigger it. Could be a speed boost, extra tickets for a bit, a short window of bonus points, or just a bomb. Because sometimes the answer is just a bomb. None of this is logged in yet. It's still very much in the sounds fun, haven't built it phase. And yeah, bumpers you can upgrade, abilities you can maybe upgrade to, I can already hear it. This is scope creep. I know this is scope creep. Honestly, no idea how much of this I will actually get to. Might be all of it, might be none of it, we will see. Yeah, I let players build their own playfield. Turns out, that was the easy part. If you want to see where this goes, just follow along, and I will see you.